The carriage rolls to a stop in front of the city gates, and a guard steps out in front of them. The guard counts the passengers and says,
"That'll be 1 gold and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 silver."
Excuse me, for what?
asks Cator.
"We don't let just anyone into this city. It is a strictly controlled military facility, with enough civilians to serve our needs."
Oh, sorry, I've never had to pay to enter a town before. What did you say, 1 gold?
"You must have difficulty counting, boy. Let me count for you again. That's 2 gold plus 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 silver."
Incredulously, Cator stares at the man and slowly reaches for his money.
Hey, do these give us a discount?
Tilly shouts as she hangs out the window of the carriage with her shirt up around her neck and breasts presented to the guard.
"Those are very nice.
The guard licks his lips.
Certainly worth a little discount."
So with this toll, do we get in and out privileges?
Asks Tilly, still holding her shirt under her chin.
"In and out privileges? Cedric, get the in and out forms."
The guard shouts to the building at the side of the gate. A younger guard approaches with some paper and a quill, hastily signing the fine print. He hands the paper and quill to the senior guard, who walks past Cator and towards Tilly.
"Entrance with in and out privileges with..."
He glances down at her chest.
2 impressive discounts. That comes to 3 gold plus 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 silver. What name should we write for the group?
Tilly and the Merry Band of Adventurers.
Says Tilly hesitantly.
Right, Tilly and plus.
He scribbles down the abbreviated name and hands the paper to Tilly, who puts down her shirt to grab it.
Thank you.
She says as she withdraws back into her seat and hands him the money. As the group drive through a marketplace, they see store owners throwing rotten fruit into the gutters and packing up their stalls. Cator struggles to keep control of the dire goat, but avoids causing any trouble. The townsfolk stare at them as they pass, and Thok jumps out of the carriage to go off on his own. The rest of the group head to the docks and find a building that looks like the combination of a warehouse and a barn, with a 4-foot-tall pile of horse poop on the right-hand side of the main entrance. Tilly secures a spot for the carriage and the goat for 30 silver and says,
Jack, pay the man.
Gesturing to the red-haired, green-clad halfling. Jack pulls 30 silver out of the bag. He briefly considers giving 3 gold instead, but decides he doesn't want to appear too wealthy in a town like this. Meanwhile, Thok stumbles across a city guard, taking a pouch of coins off the body of a snoring homeless man. Thok attempts to communicate with thieves' cant, but the guard doesn't understand.
"Move along now. This is none of your business."
Stealing from the homeless? Is that the business of the city guard?
Asks Thok. The chubby guard stands up straight, putting one hand on his baton and one hand on the hilt of his sword.
"Those were his taxes, and what the city guard does is none of your concern. Don't ask questions, turn around and go away."
The guard commands. Thok narrows his eyes, his muscles tensing for a fight. Then they hear a bell ringing and the sounds of a maw clinking as a large crowd of city guards runs down the main street behind Thok. The chubby guard ignores Thok's disobedience and starts running past to join the rest of the guards. Thok runs after them, interested in what could be going on. After storing the carriage, the group head to one of the many taverns in the city, and Tilly has a brief conversation with a pale half-orc named Krug. There is a poster on the outside wall of the tavern advertising Krug as the main entertainer for the establishment. The poster appears older than the establishment, being spattered with blood and dirt, and what looks like a shard of bone near one corner. In fine print at the bottom of the poster is the disclaimer,
"Prepay only. The establishment is not held responsible for injury, loss of limb, or loss of life."
In Orcish, inked on crookedly, is another message.
"Applause is mandatory after the performance. Tipping before the performance is appreciated,"
says Krug.
I'm sure it will be a wonderful performance. Here's 5 gold. I'm looking forward to seeing you on stage.
Tilly says. Just then, over a dozen guards rush past them, and they hear alarm bells ringing. The owner of the tavern runs into the doorway, and one of the guards urges him back inside. Cator and Jack run after the guards, while Silenifer, Tilly, and Krug walk into the tavern. Tilly talks to the owner of the tavern and learns his name is Jeb, and he thinks Krug is a beautiful female high elf. Despite very obviously being a muscular male half-orc with abnormally pinkish skin. Krug is very offended when the waiter brings him a salad and bottle of elven wine.
"Where's the meat? This isn't food."
The waiter stares at him silently and points to the kitchen.
"Go get me a steak."
demands Krug, but the waiter shrugs and points to the kitchen again. Krug pulls out a piece of parchment and writes in Orcish,
Steak and grog for Krug, no salad.
and hands the paper to the waiter. The teenage boy looks at it, rotates the paper and tries again, then folds it in half and places it on the table with the wine. He walks around the table and,
Greetings, madam. Our specials today are soup and salad. You look like a woman who appreciates a fine elven wine. Our cellar is freshly stocked with the best vintages.
I'll have the garden salad, thank you.
says Tilly. The boy nods and walks back to the kitchen. Krug stares angrily, then grabs the salad bowl and throws it at the back of his head. The bowl shatters and the boy tumbles forward, landing on his face with lettuce and ceramic shards falling around him. Tilly overhears a woman laughing in the far corner of the bar and heads over to talk to her. She finds out that Carol is Jeb's wife, but she thinks he's an idiot, and she's the one who convinced him that Krug was a woman. She knows Jeb ordered only elvish meals be served to Krug and finds the entire situation hilarious.
I'd rather light Jeb's stupid hair on fire and burn this place down. But these practical jokes are so entertaining. Ha 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 ha. I think I'm going to piss myself.
Cackles Carol. Tilly smells the alcohol on her breath and leaves before she can hear more of Carol's ramblings. Meanwhile, Jack and Cater meet up with Thok as more and more guard groups join together and arrive in a courtyard in front of a tower.
Alec Azam's tower has been attacked.
Shouts one of the guards.
Keep the citizens at a distance, fetch the healers, and get me more mage guards.
Commands the captain of the guard.
We've got a survivor! We've got a survivor!
Shout two guards as they rush out the door of the tower, carrying a body on a stretcher. Burns on the face and several stab wounds are visible on the body.
Where's that healer? Get Wethra now.
The captain screams into the face of a halfling guard. The guard jumps and starts running back toward the tavern. Thok, Kator, and Jack try to gain entrance to the tower, but the guards point their weapons at the group and ask,
Do you have business here?
Ignoring the spear tip at his throat, Thok begins to say,
This is Alec Azam's tower, right? We're here to...
No business here. We just saw the commotion and thought maybe we could help. We're adventurers and always looking to help fight monsters. What happened here? Was it people or a monster attack?
Interrupts Kator.
Back away, travelers. City business and none of your concern.
Says one of the guards with spears pointed at the trio. As Tilly rejoins Silenife and Krug at their table, they see a halfling in a city guard uniform run in and go to another table.
Wethra, come quick! Huff, huff! Alec Azam's tower! Huff, huff! The survivor is dying. Huff, huff! You have to save him! Hurry!
The female hill dwarf dressed in cleric apparel widens her eyes and jumps from her seat.
No time to lose then, let's go.
Silenife says,
Alec Azam, was not that the name of the person you were sent to see?
Yes, and it looks like I'm going to miss the performance.
Says Tilly.
Sounds like violence. Krug, go with you. Back in time for performance.
Says Krug as he joins them following Wethra the hill dwarf.
Missing? How could the most powerful wizard in town be missing after a minor skirmish with some ruffians? Were there any clues left behind?
The guard captain asks one of the human guards exiting the tower. Overhearing this, Jack steps towards them and offers his assistance.
I'm Jack Spriggard of the Four Corners private investigator firm. I see you've got yourself a case of a missing mage. My specialty is in finding missing magical items and magical persons.
We found these pages, but we can't read them, sir.
Says the junior guard to the captain. The captain takes a brief look at them, then looks at Jack. He hands Jack a few of the pages and asks him to decipher them. Jack concentrates and reads through the magical script.
Gnomes, evil gnomes, extra-dimensional travel, a pyramid with an eye in its center, the all-seeing eye. They're coming to invade our realm.
Jack mumbles as he reads the pages. He looks at the captain, then sees the all-seeing eye in the corner of his vision, but when he looks, it is gone. He hands the pages back to the captain, and the captain hands him the rest of the pages.
Maybe you can be useful after all.
Jack deciphers those pages as well, more warnings and rantings of the same nature. They appear to be written by several authors, or perhaps one person with multiple minds controlling him. Wethra and the others arrive, while Jack is deciphering the second set of pages, and she heals the wounded man, but he does not regain consciousness.
He needs rest.
She insists.
Take him to the interrogation cells. commands the captain. The injured man stirs.
Was is happen? Where am I?
Wethra kneels by him and asks his name.
Swasbuckler. Who wants to know?
The adventurers overhear this and want to do their own questioning of Svaz to get information about Alec Azam. Once Jack finishes deciphering the pages, he begins shaking his head, glancing around nervously. The captain tells him,
You're officially hired as a contractor for this investigation. Don't leave town.
Jack nods, but then notices the all-seeing eye looking at him again. He turns to look, and it vanishes. He begins sweating and curls up on the ground. Krug walks up and asks,
Do you need Orcish cure for everything?
With no response, seeing Jack suck his thumb, Krug picks Jack up onto his feet, then slaps him across the face so hard Jack's magical shield activates and a bright flash fills the courtyard. Jack tumbles to the ground several feet away, and all the guards in the courtyard instantly draw their weapons and charge toward the group. Thok sees this and tackles Krug, but is too distracted by trying to impress the guards and accidentally ends up in a sexual grapple on top of Krug. Jack rises to his feet with forced fake laughter.
That one almost hurt.
As Jack finishes his sentence, the entire group feel a magical restriction of their movement. Jack avoids the effects, but recognizes the magical signature and sees the guard captain casting the spell.
Throw them all in jail,
Shouts the captain as he returns his attention to the tower. An hour later, with the half-orcs in one cell and the others in a second cell, the paralysis wears off and Krug is finally able to push Thok off him.
Why you hug Krug?
After another hour of prying information out of Svaz, the group find out that he was a thug hired to rough up Alec Azam to encourage the repayment of some debt. His group operates out of Auntie Mabel Peabody's beauty parlor and Battle Axe Repair nightclub. Jack casts Blade Ward, hoping to recover some of his shields that were damaged by Krug. Stones in the ceiling corners of the cells all begin to glow. After a few seconds, the glow dies down. Tilly picks the lock without Wethra noticing, but suffers an electric shock as the door swings open. Wethra notices the door and runs over to shut and lock it again.
Seriously, you guys, just stay in there. Don't make my job any harder than it already is.
Just then, a halfling guard stumbles down the stairs into the room and asks,
Where is the investigator?
Here,
says Jack as he stands and approaches the door.
The captain found another page for you, and he says once your group has calmed down a bit, you'll be free to go. You can keep this page to help with your investigation, but you can't leave town until Alec Azam is found.
Jack takes the paper and reads it to the group.
Study notes of Alec Azam, Master of the Fourth Order, Magus Dominiatus of the College of the All-Seeing Eye. Day 1. I have begun my studies of the scrolls of Abdur Razak al-Radwan and have discovered some frightening possibilities with regards to the coming of something from beyond the realm of man. The scrolls tell of a tome which foretells the alignment of powers that should never align. This Tome of the Fates is described as being the length of a man's forearm by the width of 2 handspans and the thickness of a man's fist. This tome is said to be bound in light red streaked leather, with dark iron metal clasps. Some kind of magic supposedly holds the clasps closed, keeping the terrible knowledge it contains inside it from the light of saner minds until the ring of madness is opened. I am having difficulty studying the text of the scrolls as it is hard to decipher, and my magics are only of limited use to glean any comprehension of the writing's overall meaning. The vellum of the scrolls themselves are tainted somehow, and looking upon them overlong drags at my mind, poisoning my sanity and reason. I will stop for today and rest, allow my mind to calm, and research further into something involving the eclipse of the sun and a shield. Day 4. I continue to study the scrolls, but am not much further than I was when I started. The language of the scrolls is dark and ancient, speaking of terrible rites and acts of desperation that were used to glimpse into the realm of Izur. The scroll continues on, discussing the utter madness of a night where the very fabric of time and space will be torn asunder, talking of things that were and will be again. I tire much more quickly and falter in my concentration faster than when I first started studying these scrolls, for my sleep has been troubled by terrible dreams. I see 4 hands, joining together, clasping over the lands, trying to keep the world from shattering. A clawed forelimb, like from some great dragon or scaly beast. A hand of huge proportion, lightning and power radiating from between the digits. a slender, darkened hand reaching out from a red-tinged darkness, and a clawed hand, continually dripping blood. I know in my soul that these powers are terrible to behold and are the most evil of beings, but what they are attempting to thwart is far, far worse. I wake, sweating and terrified, of not only the gathering of powers, but of what would happen if they fail. Day 6. I've taken some time away from the scrolls of Abdur Razak al-Radwan to try and calm my nerves and center myself so that I can continue my studies. I know this is something that I must do, but I feel that I have stumbled into something that man should never know. I will give myself one more day of rest and recover my powers. Day 7. I think I have discovered a ray of hope in the blasted, damnable text. According to the scrolls, a group of the fated is destined to arise from terrible beginnings and oppose the coming of the Batrachian. Who these fated are is not discussed, but they are to be from the four corners of the world and are to come together through adversity and bring salvation. The scroll mentions the sponsor of one of the key members of the fated as none other than...
Jack looks up from the page.
That's where the text ends.
He puts the paper in his backpack and stands shaking slightly. He looks at his hands to see his fingertips are black with rot, and it seems to be spreading. His gasp attracts the attention of the group. Wethra moves to open the cell door as Kator jumps up, puts his hand on Jack's forehead, and casts lesser restoration before Wethra can get inside. The stones in the ceiling glow again, but dissipate quickly.
All right, bud, take it easy,
She says, partially thankful that the spell succeeded and partially annoyed that the group doesn't seem to trust her yet, despite her doing everything she can to help them over the past few hours. She thinks for a moment and then says,
Okay, I think you guys look calm now. I'll take you outside. You know, I think I'll tag along for a bit. Make sure nobody gets hurt while you're looking for Master Azam.
The group head back to Jeb's tavern, knowing they are hours late and there would likely be patrons angry that Krug had abandoned them. These thoughts faded as they approached because they could see a pillar of black smoke in the air. As they got closer, they saw the tavern was on fire and on the verge of collapse. Carol was rolling on the ground, laughing maniacally. Jeb was standing in the street nearby, clutching his sleeping hat and whimpering. Thok uses the jug of endless liquid to pour water at the base of the flames, but it seems too far gone to save the building. Worried that the fire would spread to engulf the city, Jack pulls out his frost wand and uses 5 charges to cast a mighty blizzard over the area. The crippled tavern collapses under the weight of the ice, but the surrounding buildings are spared from the blaze.
I finally did it. I finally burned that stupid bar down. My only regret is I didn't burn a Jeb along with it. Ha 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 ha,
Screams Carol as she rolls on the ground. Kator scowls at her but remembers the conversation he had with his teammates about not killing unless absolutely necessary. He takes out some rope and hog-ties Carol. With the fire gone, the city seems very dark, but the group is not willing to abandon the search yet. They head to Auntie Mabel Peabody's in search of Svaz's employer, and hopefully some answers. The nightclub is smaller than they expected, only a single room. But once they get inside, they see an open hatch leading downstairs. There seems to be signs of a struggle, but no bodies on the main floor. The group climb down the ladder into the basement and see a lot of leather instruments, whips, prods, and clothing, as well as a bucket full of weapons. There are also tables with holes cut in strange places, and wooden crossbeams almost like those used by tyrants to flay men. However, the blades all seem to be dull, and there were far too many canes and whips to be a coincidence. Most of the group caught on before they saw the ball gag and eyeless leather masks. Kator, however, knew nothing of these sex toys and continued searching the room for clues. Jack was the first to find blood, and found the body as well. Krug was somewhat familiar with this apparel and had gone upstairs before Jack even found the blood. While most of the group was still searching for what had killed the man downstairs, a group of men clad in arseless leather chaps barged in through the front door. They loudly accused Krug of ransacking the place and killing their friends, and then they appeared to prime themselves for fisticuffs.
Where's Eggy?
Before they could throw their first punch, Krug called out,
Krug not kill anyone. You no kill Krug.
Which prompted Tilly to dash up the ladder and shoot one of the leather-bound men in the head. He was dead before he hit the ground, and with his friends staring in shock, Krug took the moment to attack, He jumped forward and cast Thunderwave, shattering most of the glass in the room, blowing out the front windows, sparking several fires in the alcohol-sodden furniture and piles of fluffy pillows. The men were caught unawares, most of them having their bones shattered and their eyes popped by the blast. One who had bent down to help his friend with the arrow was now just a pair of legs that collapsed on the floor. Further back, outside of the building, an orc pirate wearing a tricorn hat stands in shock.
"Me boys,"
he says with tears in his eyes.
"You killed me, boys."
He blubbers impotently. Kator rushes up the ladder shortly after the explosion and tries to console the orc. He raises his hands in surrender and says,
"Let's not do anything hasty. Nobody else needs to die tonight. We just got here, and we found someone dead downstairs, and I'm sure if that happened to you and then some strangers came in trying to fight, you would have overreacted as well. Let's just all put our weapons away and talk about this, okay? My name is Kator. What's your name?"
"Gork,"
he says, tears running down his face. Kaitar hands the alcohol to Gork and leads him away from the building and the corpses. Jack sees the fire and uses more charges of his frost wand to try to put out the flames. Unfortunately, one of the blasts is too powerful and the side wall of the building collapses, which causes the roof to collapse, mostly hiding the corpses and snuffing out almost all of the fire. Thok and Krug make it out, but Tilly and the others are trapped downstairs. Jack searches the wreckage for more evidence as Thok tries to dig out a passage to the ladder. Jack sees an elderly woman with a peg leg staring at him from the street and abandons his search to question her. She reveals her name is Kelly Lingus, and just talking to them will likely get her killed. She tells them that Alakazam is being held at the docks, beyond the north gate to the city, but he won't be there for much longer.
How do you know all this?
Jack asks, suspicious that they are being drawn into a trap.
You'd be surprised what men talk about when their bellies are full of ale and their balls are freshly emptied. Now, I need to get out of town, fast. I'm risking my life every second I stay. You owe me safe passage.
Krug steps up and asks,
"Do you think you can make it to the gates in an hour?"
She nods.
"Good. Jack, give Krug 50 copper."
With copper in hand, Krug casts prestidigitation and makes the illusion that these copper coins are actually platinum coins.
"Right. You go to gates, give guard some of these, and head to Pedoth. Your skills might not be in high demand there, but a dirt cheap place to live, and you'll be safe there."